Hello, you're listening to Abstract AF and I'm Sneha Jaiswal. In this episode, I'm going to talk about 6 graphic novels that have faced bans in libraries and bookstores. What's interesting is the fact that I had no idea that these books were in any way controversial when I bought them, but found out about how they have often been censored or challenged after reading them, because I have a habit of reading up about books and movies that I like after I'm done reading or watching them. So let's start with the most ridiculous one on the list because it's like a book for kids and I really didn't find anything objectionable in it. It's called Drama by Raina Telgemeier, and according to the American Library Association site, it's one of the most frequently challenged books in the US. Basically, libraries keep receiving requests to ban it. As far as an actual ban is concerned, there is proof of only one elementary school banning it in their library because it was deemed inappropriate for children. Drama was published in 2012 and I read it in 2017 and only recently found out about the fact that a lot of people seem to have a problem with it. What exactly is the fuss all about? Well, it's because it has some LGBTQ content in it and parents often complain to school libraries that it is against family values and not meant for young readers. Quite frankly, I couldn't even remember much from the book except that it was a quick fun read. Drama revolves around a schoolgirl, Callie, who's part of the theatre group in the school, and they have a musical coming up, which would be playing for 3 nights. So the scene in the book that has had most adults offended is a little on-stage kiss that takes place between 2 boys towards the fag end of the story. Bad pun intended. What happens is that the lead couple in the musical are dating each other and break up just before their performance on the 3rd night. The girl who plays the heroine has an emotional breakdown and refuses to perform. So one of the boys who knows all the lines puts on a red dress in the spirit of the show must go on and goes on stage to play the girl's role. He ends up sharing a brief kiss with the hero as part of the climax. And that's where the outrage comes in, which I feel is a little undeserved because back in the days, especially in the Shakespearean era, only men used to act in plays and thus play the roles of women too. All the anger and the demands for a ban is nothing but homophobia raising its head in a country where gay marriage is legal. Nobody has a problem when heterosexual teens kiss each other, and believe me, there are too many books out there with actual inappropriate content for kids that nobody raises a stink about. Moving on to graphic novel number 2, Blankets by Craig Thompson. I bought this book in 2019 and it wasn't as impressive as I expected it to be. Time magazine had given it the numero uno spot. It was number 1 on their best comics list in 2003. It's an autobiographical story of Thompson growing up in a religious family and giving us a deep peek into the relationship with his first girlfriend. Though widely appreciated by critics, not everybody has nice things to say about it. There is some nudity in the book and sexual representations, so some people think it's inappropriate for young readers. A reader wanted the Missouri Public Library to ban it because they considered some of the illustrations in the book pornographic. And while I don't think the art was that explicit, maybe it's not appropriate for kids under 15. But that doesn't mean you try to get a book banned. Although, if anything, the debate around the appropriateness of the content might have just made Blankets more popular than it deserves to be. Graphic novel 3 on the list is Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, which was challenged by the same person who wanted Blankets banned. That aside, this book has been removed from the libraries of some schools and the author considers it an honor. Fun Home is a brilliant autobiographical book, and when I read it for the first time, I regretted not knowing about it earlier. It gives us a very personal look into Bechdel's growing up years and her complicated relationship with her father. She also talks of her sexual confusion as a child, but becomes a more confident woman once she comes of age. This book deals with certain themes that might be uncomfortable for certain conservative people, and I understand why there were attempts by some groups to get it banned in public libraries. But well, that's how real life is, filled with uncomfortable truths. You don't want to read LGBTQ content? Don't read it. As far as my opinion is concerned, Fun Home deserves to be in the bookshelf of every graphic novel enthusiast in the world. It's an underrated literary gem. Very few authors dare to be so candid about their personal life. Number 4 is Diary of a Teenage Girl. It's a semi-autobiographical memoir by Phoebe Gloeckner. The story is an intimate tale of a 15-year-old girl, Minnie, who has an affair with her mother's boyfriend, Monroe. I'm not going to lie, I did find the book a little disturbing, especially because of the raw and frank way in which we're shown how a teenager thinks it's okay to be sexually active with a man more than twice her age. While she is a little confused at first, she soon starts seeking out the older man herself. Minnie at no point sees herself as a victim, and perhaps that's unsettling for many readers. Sometimes she's a little too mature for her age, but in the end, you cannot unsee the fact that she's just a kid. The book was adapted into a movie which has an 18+ rating, which sparked a debate on whether the censor board was being too sensitive.
My name is Minnie Getz. I'm an aspiring cartoonist.
Ew.
Don't you think he's kind of cute?
No, he's so old.
Weirdo.
I saw an opinion piece by a woman who suggested that teenagers should get a fake identity card just to watch the film. That's because for a lot of American women, Diary of a Teenage Girl reflected a reality that is often brushed under the carpet. The active sexual life of teen American girls and how they're often sexually manipulated by older men, and often those men are close to the family. It's easy to see why some folks have a problem with this graphic memoir, although calls for censoring it is definitely a matter of a bigger debate. Number 5 on the list is one of my favorite graphic novels, and it's called Mouse by Beagleman. He has been a major influence on most of the popular graphic novelists out there in the market. Mouse explores Spiegelman's fraught relationship with his father, who was a survivor of the Holocaust and was in Auschwitz concentration camp where over 1 million Jews were killed. The book largely focuses on his experiences during the World War II. In the artwork, the Jews are portrayed as mice, the Germans as cats, and the Poles as pigs. And a lot of Poles were obviously not pleased with the portrayal, since pigs are largely regarded as filthy creatures that roll in the mud. In 2014-15, the graphic novel was recalled from bookstores across Russia because of a law banning Nazi propaganda. And it's just one of the biggest ironies in the world, because Mouse is a powerful tale against Nazi atrocities. It faced a ban because of the swastika symbol on its cover design that was considered propaganda due to the vague nature of the Russian law. Just because something bears the symbol associated with Hitler doesn't mean it promotes his ideology. A lot of Russian critics considered the removal of Mouse from bookshelves unfortunate. It's the first graphic novel in history to have won a Pulitzer Prize and is a literary essential to understand the chilling brutalities Jews suffered during the World War II, and is also one of the most influential anti-Nazi material, nothing otherwise. While we are now at the end of the list, it's another memoir called Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. One of the rare books that gives you a ringside view of what it was like to grow up during the Iranian Revolution. It's obviously not surprising that the book is banned in Iran due to its critical look at the regime change and the rise of Ayatollah Khomeini. The readers get to see how a once liberal Tehran, where women were as free as men, free to wear what they felt like, free to go where they felt like, were reduced to caged birds, made invisible and unimportant behind their mandatory veils. While it's understandable that Satrapi's book is often censored in Middle East countries, what's surprising, however, is the fact that it's also often challenged in America too. It was also removed from bookshelves in several schools of Chicago. Apparently, it's some of the torture techniques depicted in the book used by the new regime to crush dissidents that was deemed inappropriate for young students to read. Although a lot of students have argued that how the violence shown in the book is no less graphic than the kind of violence they encounter when they read about World War II or when they are taken to mandatory museum tours where there is enough violent war material to be assimilated. Persepolis is a gem of a book, and one need not be a graphic novel enthusiast to appreciate it. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of Abstract AF. Talk to you in the next one.